1992 was a bad year for adventure-loving Atari ST fans, and it was at this time that Lucasarts decided to not release Monkey Island 2 for our favorite system. Those gamers already got to witness the game on their VGA screens in glorious 256 colors. And now it was the Amiga's turn. A beautiful 32 color version with an amazing soundtrack, spanning over a whopping 11 floppy disks. For Atari enthusiasts, the disappointment was intense. But a full year later, during the summer holidays of '93, we got a little sparkle of hope. I was reading my monthly copy of ST Format, and at the end of issue 49, there was a little snippet by Paul Bates, who was still unknown to me back then. Paul had converted all screens of the game in 32 colors using a program called Photochrome, and he was asking for LucasArts contact information. He wanted to convert Monkey Island 2 for free for them to publish. A few months later, we got a new letter from him explaining LucasArts was not interested. And in the end, we still got a PD slideshow demo of the game. Paul went on to create Winston at the end of the 90s, a very good Atari ST emulator. This was before the Steam era, of course. And that, my friends, was the end of Monkey Island 2, LucasArts and the Atari ST. Or was it? The year is 1987, and a certain Ron Gilbert, an employee over at Lucasfilm Games, the interactive software division of George Lucas, wants to create an adventure game that parodied the slasher craze that was going on in theaters during the 80s. He called it Maniac Mansion. But just like his competitors over at Sierra Online, Gilbert needed a scripting language for his game. So he created SCUMM, which stood for Script Creation Utility for Maniac Mansion, together with Chip Morningstar. SCUMM is something between a game engine and a programming language, and it allowed developers to create locations, items and dialogue sequences without writing actual code. The engine took full advantage of the mouse, and the players did not have to guess any of the usual commands and type them in. All they had to do was pick a verb from the bottom list and use it on an object on screen to solve puzzles. Maniac Mansion was a successful release, but the big breakthrough that put SCUMM really on the map was when Gilbert teamed up with Tim Schafer and Dave Grossman to unleash the original secret of Monkey Island onto the public. By that time, Sierra released King's Quest V, their first point-and-click game, and while the company was very successful, from now on the world of adventure games belonged to Lucasfilm. 8 different versions of the SCUMM engine were created, and LucasArts used it till 1998. The problem was, their adventure games were so good that people wanted to continue to play them, even on the latest hardware. And somebody needed to come up with a solution for that.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the vault.
In September 2001, computer science student Ludwig Stigius wanted to create his own adventure game, so he started analyzing the existing game engine from Monkey Island 2. At the same time, Vincent Ham was looking into developing a SCUMM emulator to play Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. So the two joined forces, and this is when SCUMM Virtual Machine was born. While most people think of SCUMMVM as an emulator, the developers of the project do not agree. It is actually a re-implementation of old game engines into more portable C++ code, making it possible for these classic games to run on systems they were not designed for. All you need are the original data files of the adventure games in question. Over the years, SCUMMVM has grown into a huge collection of different reverse-engineered adventure game engines, brought together under the same user interface. And it has been ported to every system imaginable, including the Atari computers. Today, SCUMMVM supports over 250 adventure games, and apart from Lucasarts, titles from companies like Sierra Online, Revolution Software, Westwood Studios and many more are part of the collection. SCUMMVM is developed with portability in mind, both for making it very easy to add new game engines, as well as making it available on new platforms. This approach, however, comes with a performance drawback. It is no problem for machines where you expect to run SCUMMVM on, but porting it to something much less powerful like the Atari ST or Amiga does require a bit of different thinking. The Atari port of SCUMMVM uses a generic SDL backend, while the Amiga version had its own custom backend, which was better performance-wise. That is why you need a really beefy Falcon CT60 to be able to run anything decent using the Atari SCUMMVM port. But this has changed now. A few years ago, Anders Granlund, a full-time game engine developer in real life, picked up the first computer he ever owned from the attic, his Atari ST. He had just acquired a TF534 accelerator and he wanted to create something that took advantage of it. And since he loved the old classic adventures, he picked up the Atari port of SCUMMVM. He wanted to be able to run Day of the Tentacle, the cartoony follow-up to Maniac Mansion, on his beefed up Atari ST. So he started by removing the generic SDL backend and replacing it by its own Atari backend. This got him quite close to where he wanted, and Day of the Tentacle ran fine in most circumstances. But Anders was not satisfied. He was thinking more and more of running these classic games on a stock ST machine. But to have any chance of success, you would need to be able to optimize everywhere in the code. And not just in the places in SCUMMVM you are supposed to make platform-specific changes. Basically, it would be a one-way street with no chance of bringing the port back into the mainline codebase. But with this mindset, Anders was free to optimize and simplify for a very narrow use case wherever he wanted and without having to consider any of the other game engines or official ports of SCUMMVM. His dream was to be able to run Monkey Island 2 on a standard ST, so he started to drastically reduce the complexity of the sound code, because he knew what data to expect and what output was needed. Graphics were of course the biggest optimization. In SCUMMVM there is a lot of conversion going on before everything hits the screen. From the individual game engines to SCUMM internal, and then finally for the backend to make it show on screen. He ended up rewriting all code that touches on graphics to make it as optimal as he could for outputting to ST low resolution. That involved adding an installer step that would pre-convert the PC graphics into something that would fit his new code without having to go through graphics conversions during runtime. Lots of other small optimizations were made to make it run as smooth as possible on the 8 MHz machine. And because all of these changes are very specific to the Atari ST, he considers his work a port of Monkey Island 2 rather than a port of a SCUMMVM engine. But there's even more. Because Monkey Island 2 runs on SCUMM engine version 5, it was an easy task for Anders to also convert the Hal Barwood classic Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. We are now finally able to play the best Indiana Jones adventure on our favorite system. And honestly, seeing these games in 16 colors with the YM sound chip doing its magic really gives everything that extra nostalgic touch. There's also Roland MT32 support, and if you have an STE or Falcon, you can even install the talkie versions of the game for speech support.
It's just terrible. No one ever comes down here anymore.
But I saved the best for last. Even though Day of the Tentacle runs on SCUMM engine version 6, Anders found out the most resource intensive part of this game, the graphics drawing code, was the same as version 5 games. So everything he did to improve the Monkey Island 2 situation was directly impacting Day of the Tentacle in a positive way as well. Who would have thought Day of the Tentacle in 16 colors, playable on a 16 MHz Atari ST? What a sight to behold. Anders has really pulled one of the coolest stunts for Atari ST gamers with his conversions, and I'm thankful for it. And I'm thankful to you for watching this video. But before you go, I have one more thing to add. Anders mentions he has another dream, a dream he has not yet given up on, and that is converting the Sierra Online point and click adventures to the Atari ST. Will we finally get a Leisure Suit Larry 5? Let's keep our fingers crossed. But for now, take care and stay Atari. Bye.